What does it mean to advocate for dignity in systems that weren't always designed with dignity in mind? When we talk about leadership, we often talk about vision and innovation and disruption, but sometimes the most powerful leadership happens quietly inside the complex systems that shape people's everyday lives. If you have ever tried to navigate a system that feels confusing, rigid, impersonal, or if you've ever wondered how real change actually happens inside of massive institutions, including governmental systems, or if you've ever believed that every human being deserves agency, choice, and respect in how they get to live their life, this conversation is going to resonate so deeply. The question we're exploring in this episode is, how do we transform systems that were never designed for autonomy into systems that empower people to live with choice, dignity, and self determination? Because when leaders understand how the systems work and how to ethically reshape them, we create ripple effects that extend far beyond our businesses, any single organization or program. This actually creates environments where people can thrive. Today's guest has spent more than 3 decades standing at the intersection of advocacy, systems change, and human dignity. Rebecca LaBoriel is a disability systems expert, program developer, grant writer, and independent facilitator who has dedicated more than 30 years to supporting individuals with disabilities, their families, and the organizations that serve them. Her work spans direct service, nonprofit leadership, policy implementation, and program design, helping people navigate complex systems with clarity, agency, and respect. Through her company, New Abilities, Rebecca partners with agencies and families to bring the promise of self-determination to life, helping individuals move beyond rigid institutional models into systems that prioritize choice, autonomy, and sustainable support. What makes Rebecca's perspective so powerful is that she truly has seen the system at every angle. She has built programs, she has stabilized struggling organizations, she has secured grant funding and worked directly alongside families navigating social services. And through it all, she has remained deeply committed to doing the work with integrity and holding a high ethical standard for how people deserve to be treated. Rebecca also brings an incredibly important perspective to the field through her work supporting the deaf and hard of hearing individuals and families using American Sign Language. One of the only, I think the only independent facilitator in the state of California to do this. And a fun fact about Rebecca is that I have known Rebecca for nearly 2 decades. She started out with me 17 years ago as a Pilates client. And just this past year, she jumped on board as a client as she was starting to jump into the world of entrepreneurship, founding her company, New Abilities. I am Kimberly Spencer, founder of Crown Yourself, international TEDx speaker, and mentor and high performance business coach to sovereign leaders, visionaries, and founders who believe that leadership isn't just about building a business, it's about building systems and communities that reflects our highest values and that support us holistically in success and fulfillment. So if you're someone that believes that systems can evolve, that advocacy can be both strategic and compassionate, and that leadership requires both courage and clarity, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a conversation like this. And welcome to the Crown Yourself podcast, Rebecca.
I can't believe it's been 17. What did you say? 17 years? Wow.
Years.
Wow.
And I think that's one of the testaments to entrepreneurship that a lot of people don't see is that you're building credibility, the know, like, and trust factor from the beginning. And
Right.
I've had clients that come to me and they're like, but I had this other business and it doesn't really fit the model and it's very different. And I was like, yeah. And you've still built relationships with people.
Yes.
And there
Yeah.
is so much power in the connections and relationships and prioritizing that over the financial gain. And I know that you, in particular, in your work, have definitely taken this stance.
Absolutely. I was thinking about this podcast and kind of like what I wanted to kind of my message. And definitely, probably number one is the relationships that I have and that I get to form with people. It's not just at the state level here in California. It's also, like you mentioned, families, self-advocates, and being genuine, obviously, letting people know that I'm just really blessed that they have chosen me to, be a part of their lives and to open up their lives. A lot of times we're discussing some pretty intimate details that are in their lives or in their son or daughter's lives. And, they don't need to do that with me. They've chosen me to trust me and to be able to go on that journey with them. And I always let them know, even when I'm no longer working with the family, I always let them know just how blessed I've been and what a blessing it was to just even to get a small glimpse of being able to be a part of their families' lives. So
Yeah.
definitely relationships are huge. It's the journey that I'm on and that they're on is that if people don't trust you, I'm sure this goes across to all levels of business. If people don't trust you, they're not going to mess with you, right? They're not going to subscribe. They're not going to listen. They're not going to want to be a part of your business or even reach out.
Yeah. And I mean, your business is quite the testament to the amount of trust that you've built over 30 years, going from working in other spaces and now to officially going into entrepreneurship. I mean, you had one of the fastest monthly case studies in like record time in my 10 years of coaching. You hit your monthly income goal within 4 days.
I know. Wow. Again, what a blessing. You'll hear that through that terminology throughout this podcast. Yeah, you see the look on my face and I'm just like, wow. I wake up most mornings pretty overwhelmed that I said yes to myself. I mean, I think that's one of the lessons that if I had to go back and tell myself, 1 year ago, last year in 2025, that if I could see myself now, wouldn't have believed it. So what I've really would have loved to do is like I should have just kind of did like a vlog or just kind of like a video diary. And the struggle's always real. So the struggle's always
Mhm.
there. It's just different struggles. Just about where I was at the time that I started my business and just the different emotions that I was going through and finally just quit overthinking it and just kind of just rip the Band-Aid off and take that plunge. Obviously you were, and your company is instrumental in supporting me. 4 days is a record, obviously, for both of us. I kept seeing your posts like in social media and prior to me even thinking about starting my own business. And, I think it was just something that's always been in me to do. And I just needed the courage just to kind of get a little, more intimate with who I am. In 2024, no, for 2025, my New Year's resolution, which is not, the typical, let's get into the gym because that won't happen with me. And I was, pretty, I'm honest with myself. So that's one thing.
You and I had a solid Pilates streak going for a few years
We
though.
did, we did. No, and Pilates is still a thing for me. I mean, that's like just to do a plug. That's like the one of the best, routines for me, for my body that gets me out of my head. So if anyone's on the fence about trying Pilates, just, sign up, take that free trial, whatever you need to do in your hometown and do it. But I finally just got real with myself and was working a part-time job in this field and was just kind of like at this impetus. It's like, what am I going to do next? And I finally said, like, what do I need? And for myself. And it was really about trusting myself. And it's kind of like, you hear these, different podcasts or books or whatnot, talk shows where it's like, no, you really need to trust yourself. But it's not the cliche. It is that for me, I just had to really trust myself and realize that that's what I needed to do. And so I ended up getting myself a really good therapist. And I have a master's in counseling. And so could manipulate probably any therapist out there. And so I really had to just say, I need to, again, trust myself and be honest with myself that this is something that I'm going to do. And so I was able to get a good therapist, still see her now. And that's what I went in wanting to work on. I didn't know what the journey would take me, the peaks and the valleys and the celebrations. And I mean, that's just kind of like the icing on the cake. Just the fact that I was able to pull the trigger and get myself, you know, in with a good therapist to start working on the trust. And then that then just opened up. So within that year, I signed up with your company, Crown Yourself, started working with you pretty quickly. Just pushed myself to open up. I had no idea, for those that are listening, no idea what it would take to open a business. So I was just, researching and trying to figure out, what do I have to do? What's a business license? Do I need a business license? How much is it? Do I have any money to do that? I didn't take out any loans or anything like that. There was no startup. It was just kind of, we did it. My husband and I, we did it on our own, and I got a business license. And so I'm like, now what? And I just, again, going through working with you, who's an amazing coach for anyone that's on the fence about wanting to work with Kim Spencer. Good shameless plug there for Crown Yourself. You think that the money won't come, or you think that, oh my God, it may be a lot of money up front, but it's definitely worth it. And that's putting money into yourself and putting money into your business. Yeah, and so things started happening really quickly, and they still are for me. And I'm just, again, just very, I'm somebody with gratitude, somebody that wakes up every morning, like I said, just completely overwhelmed that this is how I think I'm still in, like, I don't know, we're probably all like at some point in our business, like in shock that I have something that people, I have information and I have something that people need and that they want. And it just continues to motivate me. And this is my space. Disability rights has been my space and will continue to be my space until I can no longer be in this space. Yeah, I've been doing it for over 32 years, and I don't see myself doing anything else, quite frankly.
I love your conviction, Rebecca. Like, for as long as I've known you, you've had such a passion and conviction for what it is that you do. And I love that you brought up trust, quite frankly, because so many business owners struggle with spiraling down the research rabbit hole, trying to DIY it, trying to figure it out on their own. And you don't know what you don't know, especially when you first
Mhm.
get started. That trust is such a massive piece. And it happens at every stage. Like, there's another level every time. And I've worked with companies and founders at the $1 million, 8-figure level as well. Like, that there's a trust in certain skill sets, but then to grow that next level, it's like, now I got to trust myself to run a team. Now I got to trust myself to actually just be in the visionary role. So there's always a recalibration of identity that comes from building a business. I always say that becoming a parent and building a business is personal growth on steroids.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna face your shadows, you're gonna face your bullshit, you're gonna face
Yeah,
your stories, um,
yourself.
yourself daily. And there's still a gratitude. I think especially as you grow, like, it doesn't go away. Like, I literally just got off a collaboration call for a new project, and I'm like, "Holy crap." Like, this is a project that is literally a dream of mine to create. I I how did I manifest this? But yet I'm not surprised that I did. Like, it's positioning and putting yourself in rooms and getting yourself in relationship and prioritizing relationship, because the revenue will come. I think that there is a line, though, especially for female business owners that I've seen,
Mhm.
where it's very easy, especially since generational programming. As women, we've only been able to, like, we've only literally been allowed to make money for the past like 200, maybe 250 years.
Right.
Like, we're still coming off of 50 years ago. We just were able to open a bank account on our own.
In the
Yay.
'70s, we couldn't even we just got credit cards. We couldn't
Yeah,
even have a credit
we
card.
had still needed a man to sign a credit get a credit card
Right.
or get a loan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think for women, we do have a little bit more generational stuff and baggage that we're carrying into our businesses that creates a challenge with self-trust. I'm all for the go-giver generosity mentality so long as it's not at the self-sacrifice of putting food on the table for your family because you're actually generating revenue. So, how have you learned to toe that line between being generous and being of service and especially being in such a service oriented industry? And I know you've seen the shadows of that industry where you've seen where it wasn't really about the service and it was about, in certain scenarios it was more about the profit and the revenue and greed. As you've built your business, how are you navigating towing that line between being of service and leading with generosity and leading with service, and also establishing like, this is the value that I provide. This is the value of service of the 30 years of experience that I'm bringing to the table. And I'm going to claim my value for that skill set.
Great question. I probably will have a better answer in part 2 of a podcast, maybe in the next 3 to 4 months. It's a really good question because it is I didn't get into this field to nobody gets into, like, social work. They always say, right? We always joke about, like, we're doing God's work. So we don't get into this work to make tons of money, right? And that's just not who we are at our core. For some, then for some, as you mentioned, their waves shifted and greed just because it's part of the 7 deadly sins. So that's just taken over. But for kind of those in my space, it's we just have good hearts, and we do. And I think I know for myself that's a path that I'm still working on. I know you and I.
Kicked your butt a few times on that question.
Yeah, I think it was, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you kept saying, do you know, like you did, like we're going to do math, and I don't do math, right? In public is what you always say. And so either do I. That's why I went into social work. So you had rattled off some, with the amount of years of background, education, trainings, and you came up with some sort of like 3,000,000, 7, I don't know. It was some number, and you're like, that's like, I want you to tape that to your computer. Like that's your worth. And so that for me, is concrete. So I have a side of my brain that's very social worky, and then I also have a side of my brain that's very business and concrete. And so that really helped me to continue to put that, like almost like it had to be put into my face to just say, know your worth. And even when I was, it was really difficult for me to say, yeah, I charge this much an hour. People are like, okay, or like I've talked to other colleagues and I was like, oh, I was thinking about charging this, and they're like, come on, Rebecca, you have over 32 years of experience. You know this stuff inside and out. What you bring to the table is not what's typical. And, again, I think that goes into trust and self-worth and believing that people have no problem paying that amount. And you know what? You were right, they were right, because when I tell them what I charge per hour, they're like, "Oh, okay," "Okay." There's not even a stutter, and for those I think we talked about this too, like, for those that maybe aren't ready to commit to that amount, you don't need like, not that you don't need that business, you just don't need that business, like, right now, right? And so that's where I'm currently at for those business owners that are brand new and trying to figure this all out, is that I'm definitely at the stage where, like, I can't help everybody, and I've heard this all my life, "Rebecca, you can't help everybody," although, in my mind, I think I can. Where it's like, I can stand in my truth again, I can trust in who I am and what I bring to the table, and if somebody isn't at that point where they can, pay that amount, then it's just not I don't say it's, like, gone forever, but it's just not right now. So, but do I still give some things away for free? Absolutely. I'm just got a new referral where, again, which is indicative of our system, is that there's tons of education, just education, training, that's needed throughout our entire system. And you have these parents that have, sons and daughters that were given whatever diagnosis, whether at birth or whether as they developed. And there's not a lot of information as far as like long term services. For those that do get that, that's a huge blessing because I don't see that on the other side as well as my other colleagues don't see that. And so navigating like the educational system, navigating then what happens and what services, individuals can get when they become of adult age. There's a huge delta of or lack of information between the school systems and then the adult system for people with disabilities, families, self-advocates. And I have a family right now where I'm just trying to help them navigate what they thought was one service was a total different service, and her son's never gotten the services that's neat. And that's just one story as to thousands of individuals coming, unfortunately into the system each year that families have no clue,
It's
what to do. So
it can feel so overwhelming, especially receiving a diagnosis and not knowing what to do and all of the emotions. And then on top of it, stack on parental emotions of guilt and shame. And did I do something wrong? And is it my fault that my kid's this way? And so we're layering on all of these emotions. So I mean, you're dealing with people in a very heightened state of fear, anxiety, worry, confusion, and a lot of big emotions. How do you navigate building successful relationships that honor where people are at and meet them where they're at, and then guide them into products or programs or services that can really support them?
funny you should say that. I just sent out an email early this morning to a family that, again, as an example, she was talking about one service. We call them in our world vendors. And I was talking about a totally different service vendor. And so she, as a mom, had no clue. She's like, oh, I thought that was the same thing. And so just being genuine, I just said, not in so many words, but they're not the same thing. And I thought that that may be the case. And so I just said, I'm here to help you every step of the way. I'll guide you because I tend to use that a lot, that I'm just a guide here on the journey for however long you'll allow me to be a part of that journey. And if that's for, however long, or if it's only a short period of time, that's okay too. So I just sent out, ironically, an email this morning just saying that, I figured that was the case. And, you could hear, I think as you talked about like the emotion, like, she was panicked in her, like in the email that came across. And it's like, don't worry, I'll guide you and we'll figure it out together. There isn't in my world like anything that's going to be absolutely demonstrate, just we'll figure it out. When I'm sending emails to, the folks that are determining services or that we're having this conversation with, especially if I'm working with those that are self advocates, I always sign it like my name and the individual's name because it's a partnership. It's not just me. I'm not just on this, journey alone. It's definitely somebody, again, as I said before, it's like somebody that's allowing me to be in their space, which they don't have to. Nobody has
Mhm.
to allow anybody to be in their space. And so they just happen to choose me. And, I have the expertise and here I am. So,
I think that translates into so many industries as well, though. And I love the fact that you say we. And I think that that's so often like we is so powerful. I was just recently on a podcast that was talking about the success of my book and Make Every Podcast Want You and that launch. And I said, that wasn't a me launch. Like that was a we launch. Like that was a community win. You get to be that testimony for possibility. You get to be that guide, that advocate, that person who's like, I may not have the answer for you, but I'm going to help you figure it out. And I'm going to partner with you and collaborate with you and be there to guide and facilitate that space. And I think that that's truly where a lot of business owners, especially in the early stages, kind of lose their way. And like I've seen this a lot more so specifically in the coaching industry. I know that one of the posts that kind of like brought you into my world that would like really resonated was where I was commenting on the focus being in the wrong place for the coaching industry. And I've seen so many coaches focus on here, let me share my revenue milestones. Let me share how much money I've made. And I'm like, I don't care how much money you've made. How much money are you going to help me make?
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
like, how is this of service to me? I get being a testament. Like, it's kind of like the girl at the gym with the abs, like wearing the cute crop top. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, show me how you did it. Like, tell me how you did it. But
Right.
just saying like, "Oh, look at my abs," like, not saying like, please wear what you wanna wear to the gym. And if you have abs, congratulations.
Yes.
I look forward to getting mine back. But like, it look at are you focusing on the me in your marketing, or are you focusing on the we of having it be a partnership and a collaboration, building those solid relationships that I'm not surprised you scaled so fast to hitting your goals because you focus on prioritizing long-term, high-touch relationships.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking too with your, not that Kim brought me on to like keep plugging her on your self coaching. However, that's not the subliminal here, folks. And it was my first time ever using like a business coach. So I don't know how others, do it. But one thing that you kept, plugging away with was like, I would say something back and then you kept like, is it real? Like, it's almost kind of like you kept whittling it down to make me really think about, which then went obviously hand in hand with my therapy sessions of trust, right? Because,
Yep.
and I kind of felt in a way like my time with you was not that you're, but was therapeutic in the sense that you're really making me think. So going back again to that idea of you're worth over 3 million. Wow. Because I tend to be loyal to a fault, because I tend to be just all in. I can be impulsive. I'm an Aries, and which I love, and I can be very impulsive. Having something that boldly, and I think like you're like slapping in the face, like, hey, wait, maybe that's the next book cover. Let me slap you in the face. I don't
Let me
know.
slip. I mean, I can't take it because I think it's trademarked, but my friend Ellen, she has what she calls the bitch slap of truth.
Okay. That's exact.
That is one of the best
Yes.
descriptions of loving coaching, of it's not to be a jerk, it's to really poke holes in paradigms
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
perspective shifts.
Yeah.
And especially when you're first getting started, so often people think that there's like so many things that you need to be doing, and I need to improve my website, and I need to be all over social, and I need to go on 50,000 podcasts. And I'm like, You need to make sales. That's very minimal as far as what you need to be doing. You need to have conversations with people and then potentially ask them for a referral or to give you money.
Right. Right. Yeah. And this is my first podcast, by the way, folks. So
This is your
it is. Yeah. I've never been on it. Yeah. No, I was a podcast
the
virgin, but
podcast
I am
cherry.
no longer. I am no longer. You just continued to ask the hard questions. And again, as a business owner for myself, because I don't know any other way to be, is just transparent. And I say this all the time. Um, it's just who I am, and being genuine to who I am and what I believe in is that I really felt that if I was going to, again, as I said before, like rip off the Band-Aid and start this business, that I really needed to do the work. And I do think that there's work within Us, I think you kind of touched upon it before about like women and, you know, leaders and business owners. And I mean, we kind of joked about you couldn't even get a credit card not that long ago. We have to do the work to shift those paradigms of the misogyny and just, what, again, not to get into like this is a therapeutic session for me, but or for those that are listening, but like what you come to the table with from your childhood and what was believed in that household, believe it or not. I remember my brother saying, like, when I was like 18 or 19 years old, and granted, there's a huge age gap between us, 14 years to be exact. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I just remember him going, yeah, all Becky needs is a good husband that's going to take care of her. And I remember saying to him, Becky doesn't need anything like that. We were ironically in the kitchen. Becky doesn't need anything like that. Becky's going to college. That was when college was affordable, community college. And so even then, we're talking 80s, early 90s, like that wasn't a thing for me. So obviously didn't know then where I'd be at now. As you mentioned, my conviction that wasn't going to happen for me. So
I think one of the things, especially knowing you for so long, that I've always loved about you is you have always been you. And maybe that's the Aries thing, like just like I am here, I am
yeah,
fire, like take
yeah,
it, leave it, like here's who I am.
right.
Like my best friend's an Aries, so like I love that.
Yeah,
And I think that that's such a unique gift in a world that has taught women to hide who they are, to shroud who they are. And while yes, starting your business brought up some reflection and, lessons of self-trust and
yeah,
some mirrors into your life, at the same time, you have always had a beautiful, almost audaciousness, which I love, to just show up fully as you are with such a heart of service. And one of the things that struck me in your background of 30 years is the value of integrity that has been the through line throughout, and the ethics, and in treating people and knowing how people deserve to be treated with compassion and respect,
absolutely.
and where you have had to toe the line and make those hard leadership calls and leave positions to stay true to your values. I think that's one of the things that I deeply respect so much about you is that you have made those tough leadership calls
Hmm.
and advocated for yourself.
Very true. Very and difficult, I think.
And difficult. Yes.
And like obviously looking back, it's easier to say today than at that time, is that there were definitely signs. I'm very attuned to energy. When my energy is off, and we always hear these things, listen to your gut. I probably should have listened to my gut earlier on, but I probably wouldn't be where I am right now, because those ugly situations or the difficult situations that I was put into is that I wouldn't be where I am today. And so I've definitely had to heal from those in the moment. Obviously, I wouldn't say, this is the reason this is happening. And da-da-da." It wasn't like I'm going to skip down the yellow brick road and just I'm home now. But looking back, they're all lessons. And again, going back to my vlog or my video diary that I should have done, it would have been very interesting and probably even more therapeutic for myself to have taken a video of like what I was feeling at that time and what was going on during that time to where I'm at now, because to be able to tell yourself 2, 5, like 10 years, ago, it's going to be okay. And I tell that to my friends now who are my colleagues that are thinking about starting a business, and just like, wait till you get to the other side. And I've heard that from other colleagues that they're really excited and can't wait till my business is launched. But I have like a couple more weeks of doing some part time work and then I'll be done. But one of my colleagues that has her own business is like, wait till you get to the other side, Rebecca. It's going to, it's so great. And I just use that with, that terminology with somebody else that's really close that we've been colleagues in this business in this space, I should say, for probably 30 years. Like, dude, wait till you get to the other side. I said to him, I'm like, I know I can say that now because I'm on the other side but I know how scary, right? Where you have a family. I have a family. I have a son. My mother-in-law lives with us. We support her and care for her. So it's not just, you can't just like, we're going to launch a business today and then hope all the bills get paid. No, I mean, there's realism there. And so just empathizing with folks now on that side to really just, you can do it. You can do
Mhm.
it. And I think too, you said like, you don't have to go down this rabbit hole of spending all this time and research, right? And chat GPT and everything and all of that and Googling things. Google some things, chat GPT some things. But I think people do get stuck and then they go down these rabbit holes if that's your brain. My brain is not that brain. My brain will be, okay, let me take a look at this, look at that. Okay, let's go. Here's my website. And my husband will be like, it's done? Yeah, I sat one weekend and did my website. And I'm like, just going to figure it, I'm just going to figure it out. And so that's exactly what I did with putting my business together. And I guess that comes from like what you were saying with my tenacity and then how I show up. Cause that's just, again, me being genuine to myself
And
and
I
to
think
my customers. Yeah.
and the power of taking action. I mean, like, you have taken decisive action, and sometimes, in your career, actions that have happened to you,
Right.
where, leaving positions and whatnot, but being able to truly create your path forward and build that trust in your intuition and in knowing in your gut, this is something that's right and true for me. I want to bring to attention that you're still in a part-time position for a few weeks
Hmm.
left, but like, there's no shame in having a bridge job to pay some bills. In fact, it actually can create some extra financial stability so that it makes sales easier. Because when you bring neediness and, "Oh my god, I have to make this sale in order to XYZ, pay my mortgage," like, it puts a lot of pressure on the relationship, and it makes it really needy, like that guy in the bar, like, who's really looking for that score that evening, like, it's not sexy.
Right.
It's like, ugh, it's
Right.
kinda gross, like, you wanna
Yeah. It's
back away.
desperate.
It's
Yeah.
desperate and it reeks, and when you can have some support. Now, obviously, there are choices that need to be made, like as far as how long that support is going to go. And I know that, like, one of the hardest things for me in making the leap from being a freelance instructor at the studio where we met to starting my own studio was the fact that it was loyalty. I was so loyal to my clients. I loved my clients that I worked with up in Northridge and Porter Ranch in that area. Like, I loved my clients so much. And then eventually there was like this time pressure for me that made me make the leap where I felt an external pressure of like, I need to make some choices. And then there were some admin and management choices that were made at the studio where I was freelancing. And I was like, there were some values misalignments that I said, okay, I'm out. I'm going
Mhm.
to do my own thing. And I think that that's when you can make that leap to advocating for yourself, to trusting, and sometimes it comes from that place of pain where like, this isn't working. Like, this is not financially working. It's not mathematically working. Like, when I was bought out of my ecom company and I went back to teaching at another studio as freelancing while I had my private studio. And I had so much doubt in my capabilities to run a business because I had just gone through so much interrogation from lawyers on my capabilities, my age, like, everything was brought up. And I really built up a wall of self-doubt. And I empathize so much with that taking the leap because it wasn't until I like did the math and I was like, wait, having this part-time job where I'm teaching at a chiropractic office freelancing, for the amount of time I'm spending driving back and forth and going there and going to my own studio and the amount of time and energy, if I just put that into my own business, like, I did the math and I was like negative $300 a month. I was like, well, that's dumb.
You did that with me. You were like, you gave them how much time? And and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I gave them 3 months." And some of that, as you talked about, because I wouldn't say scared, but I had some trepidation as to if I just took the leap and typically gave, like, the 2 months or whatever, notice, was that was that enough time for me to be able to then fully launch my business? And so, obviously, already having contracts, prior to, because in 2 weeks, I'll be done with that part-time job, but I've made such great relationships with people, um, and and, but I'm also burning the candle at both ends.
Mhm.
So that's kinda like the pros and cons, is that you have to, as you're drumming up more business, so to speak, and I already had business prior to, there's that, and how do you balance that? And don't ask me that question, because 'cause I'm trying to do the best I can right now. In doing so, I've been slowly reducing my hours with that bridge job, and so instead of like 25 hours, which I was typically doing, now I'm down to 20. And so I'm slowly going down until obviously my last day. But again, burning the candle at both ends. And I'm kind of chalking up, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I'm kind of chalking some of that up to like building. That's what you have to do to build your business. And, but also knowing like I only have so much of a bandwidth, and I've got a family, and I've got 3 dogs, and I've got, so I'm at the realization of exhaustion
Mm.
where it's like you have to balance that. So that's where I'm at right now.
Especially as mothers, like, this is where feminine business principles, I think, really come into play because there are seasons of push, but it's a short season. And
Yeah.
where we end up going into burnout is when we extend that season and we keep extending and we keep on pushing and we keep on lowering our standards, missing our boundaries and widening those rails. That's where we end up kind of stagnant and burnt out because the flow of the river doesn't have those secure riverbanks. But I think just like with labor, like when you think of the push period compared to the entirety of the pregnancy, it's a very small amount of time for the most part, like at max a day. Ideally, you're not pushing for a day. That sounds terrible. 4, maybe 6 hours, maybe 10, but compared to 9 months of a pregnancy, making agreements as far as, okay, when this push period is over, this is how I'm gonna reward myself with a rest. And having those sprints where there's a reward of rest and recalibration and a space where you say, like, there is shutdown time, there is turn off time. I too am in a very big push season right now.
Hmm.
I know it's gonna be ending in about 3 weeks, even though it's gonna be ratcheting up. Like,
Sure.
certain events and experiences that are happening this year, I'm like, I know this is a very intense year for a lot of people. We're in the year of the fire horse. There is a lot of fire energy. And as someone
Love that.
who astrologically, as well as yourself as an Aries, has a lot of fire in her chart, is a fire bunny, I am actively looking at how do I flip and prioritize rest. And this is where like the knowledge of the body comes into play because the most amount of growth happens in muscles at rest. Like you tear them, you work them, the muscle fibers literally physically tear, and then it's in the recovery that they build strength. So we have to have those spaces of building and recovery. So I got to ask this as your coach, like, what are you going to do to celebrate after these 2 weeks with
Well,
rest and rejuvenation?
you said rest, but I don't know how much rest we're going to get, because my son, who's also an Aries, his birthday is at the end of this month. And so we're going to Disneyland. He'll be turning 10, and he's never been to Disneyland. I vowed that I want him to make sure that he makes memories. So we're going to Disneyland for 3 to 4 days, and it's just ironic that to all your folks out there, I didn't even plan it that way to happen. It's just that Santa gave him a plane ticket to Disneyland this year for Christmas, and so when I did give my notice, it just so happened that it aligned, and we know that things don't happen just out of, circumstance, that things are meant to be for a reason. I always believe in that. So, yeah, so my
Rebecca,
last
you
day with that
manifested
bridge.
it.
Huh?
You manifested it.
There we go.
That literally was one of your goals.
Yes!
That was one of
It's giving me chills because when I wrote it out, right? Didn't I write something about or tell you something about
yes.
Disneyland, that I wanted to take my son to Disneyland and have enough money to do that, to where we're doing it right. We're gonna stay at not at the Disneyland hotel, but, at a hotel that's close there, and it's beautiful. We're able to see the fireworks from the hotel room, and we got 3-day passes for all of us. He's got a dinner with the characters for his birthday already, so I
What?
totally didn't even think about that when I first.
Seriously, like,
Yeah,
you did it. Like, I just like, holy crap, you did it.
I'm, like, blown away.
Guys, I'm just, like, heartwarmed. Like, I'm just
Wow. Yeah. It tears me up because I remember. So for those that don't know, and it's just kind of like Kim and I's, like, inside joke or secret, is that when I came to Kim, it's probably one of the first times we talked
yeah.
in the coaching, is that I just simply wanted to be able to make enough money to take me and my family to go to Disneyland, and to not have to worry about money, in the sense of this was going to be a big deal, and so that he can have memories that are going to last him for a lifetime. And you know so yeah, just, until you brought it up, I didn't even think about it, and that was one of my, like, now I can go check.
Check, check, check.
And my last day is right before, the weekend we leave for my bridge job. So as soon as I get back, I've already got things lined up for my business to meet with people, and yeah, I
I
know.
mean, that will oh my god, I'm tearing up. I'm so
Yeah,
happy for you. Like,
yeah,
I'm so happy.
yeah.
Like, I'm not surprised that you did it because I knew you absolutely had the capacity and the capabilities and the skill set and
Thank you.
the
Yeah.
tenacity to be able to do it. Knowing that you did it and the timing that you did it
Wow.
and
Yeah. Oof. It gives me chills because it's like closing that door with the bridge job. And yeah, as we're going, and as soon as I get back, there's stuff already lined up for the business. And yeah, yeah.
rest for an Aries looks a little different.
Was very much so, very much so. So going to Disneyland, of course, why not for an Aries?
Yeah.
Well, now 2 Aries, and my husband's a Cancer, so we'll have to drag him along, but, we'll take some rest breaks. But yeah, because 'cause I'm like, we're gonna go from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, and so that's
Oh my gosh. I
probably not
I
going to be the case. So I probably have to think about how I'm going to actually choose some rest for myself while we're at Disneyland and on that trip, so that we can sustain for those 3 days. But yeah, it's gonna be, yeah. And it just so happened that California was having a deal to bring more Californians back, and so I hadn't seen the price of tickets in years, and the sticker shock, oh my god, I could not believe. Just, I should have been more grateful when I lived in SoCal and had gas. But, yeah, there was a 3-day, well, it's a 3-day park hopper
Yep.
ticket, and you could use it at any time between this time and this time, and I'm like, "We're not gonna make 3 different trips down," so I bit the bullet and got it. And for the 3 of us, well, you know how long I've been thinking about doing this, and so
Yep.
this I put this together for us, I wanna say, in, what was it, December, November, October, like, whenever,
Yeah.
I think November.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about our initial conversation. So, wow. Wow.
I think that there's so much faith that you've operated in just backing yourself fully and taking the leap and, biting the bullet. Sometimes we think we need to bite the bullet from a space of ego of like, I need this. But there's something so powerful when you've been leading consistently with heart led desire. And if you were to see changes in the social work space and in the disability space, what changes would you want to see be enacted systemically so that more leaders like yourself were serving from a place of heart space desire in really helping people also achieve their similar goals?
I think you kind of nailed it on the head. There's a lot of leaders and systems that are ran by ego, like just are not ran from the place of integrity, whether it's ego and then just people, they find the same type of personality type to take over. And that's at any level, ground level, that there's fear there. And it's sad to me. I didn't just come to this realization, folks. It took me a while to come to this, but it's sad to me that people can't really or don't know or feel that they can be their true authentic self and bring that to the table, and that's enough. So I was just on a state public policy call yesterday for employment for people with disabilities. I'm a part of a board, a statewide board, and then it's part of a national board. And most of the states across the United States have a board. It's called APSI. And so it's all about supporting people with disabilities for employment first, basically, that people have the right to one, have the dream of wanting to get a job, two, of getting the right supports they need to get a job, three, being paid a living wage to have that job. I mean, go figure. I mean, these things are just like, why not? But, we just alluded to the fact that, women, even in the 70s, can get their own credit card. So
Sell
it's
yourself
all
short.
right. It's always been a civil rights movement for me. And I really, truly feel if we could get some more authentic leadership or people that are current leaders to do, again, some more work on themselves to be able to bring their authentic selves and collaboration. Where part of the conversation I had yesterday was getting two very different systems to come together and both have the same mission, but they're both very distinctly designed differently. My best friend always says, if we could get these two systems to come together and just hug it out, like, we're from Gen X. Gen Xers are like, we're hardcore, but, if they could just come together and hug it out. And I'm just like, I'm a practical person. So why can't we just bring the two leaders and come together and just have like this collaborative conversation? Maybe some will call me simple minded, but I just don't understand why we can't. That could be in any instance. Service providers, all we have to do is ask the question. And if somebody says no, then okay, we're going to, we'll shift and go down a different path. And if somebody says no, and I was talking with another agency leader going, well, why not? And a lot of it is because they just don't know how to do things differently, right? Because the
Yeah.
leadership has been where there is a changing of the guard, so to speak, where you're having a number of executive directors who are retiring. And then the next regime, so to speak, is coming in, and that's at all levels within the state and within the provider agencies. And I'm a firm believer of that, and that's scary for some people. And I'm not trying to be an elitist, but I truly believe it's scary for somebody that has never tapped into that piece of themselves before, or hide behind, whatever song and dance they choose to bring to the table. And that's what they've always been known for. And I've just always been me. And so when I bring who I am to the table, I either really align with other individuals that are in their space and being genuine, with themselves and or of gratitude, or I get met with, how I speak and who I am is very foreign to them, and so they may really, maybe to my face or maybe to, "Oh, yeah, that sounds really good," but then they don't know what to do with me, and so I've just obviously chosen to break out of those spaces and create my own.
Amen. Might as well. We all have masks, and I trust a leader far more who's able to say, yeah, I probably do have some masks on. I'm open to exploring and open to curiosity. I'm open to being wrong rather than I'm right. This is the way it's always been done. I am who I am. That's not going to grow anywhere. It's not going to grow anything from that space. And I love the fact that you decided to just break out and create your own mold. And in a way, you're redefining how social work can be done with compassion, with ethics, with integrity, with service mindedness. I know throughout our coaching, we talked a lot about building your business on a foundation of like really solid values. And you have always had those values. And now you get to build an entity that encompasses them, that whether it's you or whether it's you grow with a team, however big you want to build it, those are the roots that are just so deeply planted. And I can't wait to see them take hold and choke out systems that aren't
Yeah,
lovingly.
yeah,
Like mint takes out everything. Yes. So you get to be the mint of social services.
I love
And
that.
it smells great too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Rebecca, I have loved our
Oh
conversation. I mean,
gosh.
I love all our
Yeah.
conversations, but I would love to switch into a little bit of rapid fire. Are you ready?
Bring it on, sister.
Bring it on. Who is your favorite character in a book or a movie and why?
Ooh, that's a hard one. You know what just kinda came to mind was the dude from Wedding Crashers. What is it, Vince Vaughn? Is it Vince Vaughn? First of all, I love that movie, and he's hilarious. Where he was just like, "Yeah, I got a stage 4 clinger going on right now." Yeah, I don't know why that came to mind, but that's just my personality. I am authentic to a fault, but then, I have this really like we laugh a lot in this house. And my sarcasm goes a long way. And so, yeah, I don't know why he just popped up, but you seem to be surprised as well. So, yeah, Vince Vaughn. I love Vince
Surprised,
Vaughn.
but not entirely surprised, given like
Okay.
from our Pilates sessions to our coaching
Yeah,
sessions, there always has been laughter and fun and
exactly. Yeah.
ridiculousness that
Yes.
also comes to play. And I
Keep
think
'em
that,
up.
there's such a power in leadership in bringing play to the table. And you do that
Absolutely.
so beautifully and so effortlessly, and you got that little, like, fire spunk too, which Vince Vaughn definitely does too. What person, alive or alive and in their time, would you wanna trade places with just for a day to be in their body and experience the world as they did?
I've been watching and really got into and a little late to the game of not Bridgerton, but the other what's that show that's on?
Queen Charlotte.
No. No, 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 no. No. Wrong era. But anybody in that era. Definitely in that era. I have English blood in me, so there's a little bit of draw that way, but just to I I cannot, like, even think to understand what it was like being in a powerful position of that era and having to also kinda as we joked about, it's and not joke about, the '70s, you couldn't get a credit card or as a female that, as being in that era that, the wigs and the pump and stance and all of that, and you had to wear corsets and all I mean, just those horrible to me they are. I tried Spanx once, never again. That, like, was never, like, gonna happen for me. Here it is. This is who I am. If you don't like it, that's not my problem. So just all the politics that went into like the play of a real leader, a female leader in that era.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
As a business owner, what is your money ritual?
What does that mean?
So it could be how often you look at your books. Do you look at your P&L? Do you,
Oh,
like, light a candle and some incense and, like, manifest and write down what you desire to make? Like, what is your process for looking, feeling not only like the practicalities of finances, but also the energetics?
Interesting question because I'm not a light a candle incense like sage. Maybe I do that more in my head, but I will go into my business account and be like, that's great. This is why I needed a bookkeeper. So I'm so glad. And we'll plug that in a minute. But it was just like, okay, there's my bank account, my business account. It's got money in it. And then I'll look at my personal account and be like, okay, we're okay here. Maybe that's what I manifested. I needed a bookkeeper and found a great one within the collective, right? The collective.
Mhm.
And so, I'm sure she's going with all of her experience and expertise is gonna probably get me on a better path. I was just doing everything on my own, and so just finished last weekend actually to give my, profit and loss sheet to my CPA. I did that all on my own. Not that it's difficult, but for me who procrastinates and it's not just where I want to be at, I don't want to do anything with invoices or any that. So that's what I found out, I guess, about myself is that I don't want to do any of that at work. And so I got myself a bookkeeper, which I'm really excited about.
Yay! And I mean, and that comes to knowing what your zone of genius is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really realize what your zone of genius is, and it's in client delivery and delivery of
Yeah.
services, and in
Relationships.
conversion and relationships, and those 2 areas are great. So admin and collections, that's not your jam. That's not where you need to be playing. And I love the fact that you found your bookkeeper inside of the collective. That's one of the powers of just community and getting into the right rooms. What do you define to be your kingdom or your queendom?
I don't really have I'm not somebody that ironically, because I'm not somebody that would typically make, like, New Year's resolutions either, but I happen to, and it works for me, and I have a New Year's resolution this year. Trust is what I'm was working on last year and obviously continue to do so. This year, my kind of like my charge for myself and what I'm working on is just being more true to myself. I'm always about the journey, and as cliche as that is, I remember when I was in my master's program, I was having a conversation with one of my professors, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, what are your plans? Like, what are your next steps after you get your master's?" And I was like, "Yeah, I tend to think of myself as like this leaf that kind of just flows down a river. And, if I get stuck on a twig, then, that's where I'm supposed to be." Who knows? He probably thought I was high on something, but it is so true. I mean, that's just my personality. As much as I have a level of where I need to be in control, I'm not a control freak because I always do like to challenge myself, and so challenging myself means for me is to kinda, like, let go and just be that leaf, and it sounds really existential, but that's just the journey, so maybe that is my queendom, is that journey.
Love it. What does it mean to crown yourself?
To crown myself is just b believing and trusting in myself and really doing the work to be my authentic self, if that makes sense. And I think sometimes, the crown for me is not like where the crown is straight on the top of my head. I like mine to be a little off and probably to the right or to the left. Or some days it may be like even hanging off an earlobe, or I'm throwing it around with my finger because of my personality and who I am. I'm just never going to be, let me just sit it right here. That's never who I am and who I feel like my journey is. And for the people that I support and get to be graciously a part of their lives and who allow me to be part of their lives. None of us wear the crown straight on top of our heads,
Mhm.
and whatever the crown represents to anybody. I always say this all the time, and I love to see the reactions. Like, we all are labeled with something, whether we have an official diagnosis or not. So there's never an elitist in me that ever feels like I know what's best. And I'm that leader. I let the crown fall as it may.
Rebecca, where can we find you? How can we work with you? If we know somebody who has disabilities, is it just for California that we can get in touch with you? Or how can we get your services for grant writing? Plug yourself, Queen.
Obviously, California is where I'm at, but would love to be able to work with others in other states as well, because there's different systems in place in every state. So my website is newabilities.com, just as it's spelled, and my email address, because New Abilities was taken, I decided to spell it phonetically. So my email address is Rebecca, Rebecca, at New Abilities, but it's spelled Nuabilitz. So kind of like New Ablitz at gmail.com. And so would love to, even if people have inquiries and don't know where to start, would love to be able to touch base. And I'm happy to give any advice that I can. And if you'd love to work with me further, I do work with a number of agencies. I've worked on new projects, pilot projects. As you mentioned, I am a grant writer. I've gotten several agencies over $100,000 grants before. Yeah, so I would love to work with you.
You're just such a badass. And I just love you. Like, I just think having known you for as long as I've known you and see your growth and your transformation and who you've become and watching you become a mom, it's so beautiful to have the honor and the privilege of being in someone's life for that long.
I
And
appreciate it.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you, and I am very excited to see where you take your business and where you take the industry as a whole as you lead from the front. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business because your reign is now. I'll see you next week in the next episode.